There are endless questions still swirling around the events of the White House Correspondents Dinner. But more importantly, there is a mountain of evidence that Donald Trump is desperate to keep hidden, including some leaked audio caught on a hot mic that completely exposes the real truth of that night. This is the truth the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge. They don't want to talk about it, and they'll wag their fingers at you, calling you a conspiracy theorist the second you bring it up. Because, of course, they think it's outlandish for us to point out the obvious. Isn't it a bit fishy that an event honoring reporting on the Epstein file cover up was the one that got shut down? Is it really that crazy to suggest that an administration that protects predators would do anything to protect itself, including staging an entire event? We are going to dive deep into that hot mic audio in just a second, but first, we have to address how the Republicans are already trying to force their narrative down our throats. They're claiming that what happened on Saturday is set in stone. They're telling us we aren't allowed to question it. They want us to just shut up and swallow whatever story they feed us. Well, I'm not doing that. And you shouldn't either. Which is why I want to start by calling out Lindsey Graham's nonsense right here.
If you don't think $400 million of taxpayer money is a good investment to create a secure facility at the White House where the President of the United States, the Vice President, the Cabinet, and people from the public can come and, have a meal and gather without what happened Saturday, then I disagree. This is the number one job of the federal government is national security. The number one job of national security, I think, would be to protect the commander-in-chief and to have infrastructure under the ballroom that is very national security centric. So I don't think, just vote no. That's all I ask you to do is vote. I don't care how you vote. I want to vote. I want to see where is America on this. I'll bet you 90% of the people would love to have a better facility than the Hilton Hotel to make sure this crap never happens again. I can't tell you what to say on the Senate floor, but I've never seen it like this. There are people out there just one click away from picking up a gun or something else and trying to make America better by killing. You don't make America great by killing people you don't like. That's not how you make America great.
Now, Lindsey Graham said a lot of things in that clip, most of it nonsense. But the most important word he used was taxpayer. He kept emphasizing taxpayer money. Let's look at the facts here. That $400 million, which if I remember correctly started at $200 million and magically doubled, was always private money. These were gracious donations from the very billionaires who walked away with massive tax cuts thanks to Donald Trump. We are talking about corporations like Palantir and Amazon that pay zero in taxes. Suddenly, they are being generous by tossing us a few crumbs, a couple $1 million for a ballroom. But notice the shift. Now, suddenly Republicans are calling it taxpayer money. In their desperate rush to make sure this ballroom project happens, they aren't focused on the logic or the approval. They are laser focused on the cash. So let's get this straight. Donald Trump has an assassination attempt. And yes, I'm using those quote marks very intentionally. And suddenly, $400 million in dark money from a donor list we know absolutely nothing about just falls into his lap and he gets to walk away? Yeah, that sounds like a hell of a lot more than just suspicious. Especially when you consider the hot mic audio we're about to get into. And especially after you hear what Todd Blanch had to say right before we dive in.
When you have a president who and many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it, has done it as well. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place. If you look at what it appears that this defendant had in his past, we're talking about somebody who is college educated, who has a job, who is otherwise living his life. And we'll find out more about him, as I expect, in the coming days and weeks. But he chose to do what he did. And so our threat environment is, we are ready. I mean, I'm not going to go through what Director Patel just talked about with the way we responded. But this was something that we will always be prepared for. And it's sad that it has to happen, but it's not a new thing, unfortunately.
Oh, interesting. So now we are not even allowed to say mean things about the president. We couldn't do that. That's the real problem here. It's nothing else. What we have to take away from the events of Saturday night was that you're not allowed to say mean things about the president. That is what they want to say. That is what they want to be the narrative. That it should be illegal to call Donald Trump a pedo. By the way, to call him a pedo, the adjudicated rapist. You're not allowed to say those words about Donald Trump. And if you do, you're essentially threatening his life and should be treated like a criminal. That's what they're saying. But the truth of the night is that more reporting needs to be done on Donald Trump's crimes. The truth of the night is that Donald Trump was to go as far as he possibly could, including staging a shooting to protect himself. And the truth of the night is, well, it's this right here. The Tennessee Holler reported sharing a clip from Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. This hot mic audio might as well put a doorstep in. Local reporters heard remarking how lax security was at the White House Correspondents Dinner red carpet.
I love that they have like two random chicks holding the front door open. We're not even trying anymore. It's not even like, I just mean like they're not even like Secret Service people. It's like the girls who work here are holding the door. Even if it was the guys, it wouldn't even make it better. It's like she's fucking just like they might as well put a doorstop in. Like, they put up a doorstop and a scarecrow. Don't fuck with this guy.
Wait, what? People at the event were actually questioning the security before anything even happened? They were literally standing there wondering why things were so lax. And now, we have new reporting coming out from the Washington Post confirming that the White House actually allowed this to be classified as a quote-unquote lower-level security event. Now, some of you might have seen my video coverage on Saturday night where I was wearing a tux. A few people asked if I was actually at the dinner. Let me be clear. Absolutely not. I was not at that dinner. I was wearing a tux because I was attending a party with Substack and MSNBC. I was nowhere near that dinner, but I was in the general area. And look, I'm not trying to dox myself here, but I live close enough to that neighborhood that I stopped by a local bar, and I'm telling you, I did not see the level of security you would expect for an event of that magnitude. Think about this. Earlier this year, I covered Donald Trump's State of the Union. I wasn't inside the building, obviously, but I was talking to members of Congress before and after. That event was a fortress. It was on total lockdown. We are talking about the exact same high-level officials at this dinner, and yet the security just wasn't there? This audio is massive. It proves that everyone knew. Everyone on the ground could feel that something was off. Everyone was talking about how fishy it was. Even Caroline Levitt's husband. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to play the audio for you. This is just as important as any other piece of evidence we've seen.
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time. I did want to add this while we had a moment. I was just...
Get this. Moments before the shooting, Caroline Levitt's husband was actually telling a Fox reporter, hey, be careful, it's about to get crazy. And then, right as that reporter starts telling the story on air, Fox mysteriously kicks her off the broadcast. Wait, what? Seriously? Maybe that's another piece of audio we need to start digging into. But let me get to the real point here, because this is what matters. We know what the truth of that night was. The truth is, whether this was 100% staged or not, the conflicting reporting makes one thing very clear. The White House, at the very least, seemed to want something to happen. I mean, if you refuse to put basic security in place, you are essentially asking for a disaster. If you aren't ready to go as far as calling it staged, you certainly cannot deny that the White House and Trump were allowing this to happen. Think about the logistics. The room itself was secure, right? So maybe the plan was, let someone get through the outer doors, let them get seized by the heavy security inside, and create a spectacle. Because let's be clear, the gunshots didn't even happen inside the room. I'm not trying to diminish the fear that people felt in that moment. I just wish these people cared half as much about the threats school children face every single day as they do about themselves. But the fact remains, the shots were outside. So maybe the thinking was, we can be a little lax outside, let a stunt happen out there, and then we'll pretend Donald Trump is a hero as he falls on his big fat McDonald's fed ass while being rushed out. They wanted us to think someone had a scope on him, which we now know was not the case. There are just so many questions. If your first thought was, oh my god, here we go again, this is fake. Look, that is a valid reaction, especially when Marjorie Taylor Greene was calling the Butler shooting a hoax just 5 days ago. If your second thought was, maybe not a total fake, but they were definitely okay with it happening, that is also absolutely valid. That hot mic audio proves it. It shows that everyone on the ground thought it was suspicious. Everyone thought it was weird. They were thinking it before it happened, and they've been thinking it every second since. And you want to know why they'd take such a risk? Just look at Donald Trump's approval ratings right now.
And just take a look here. He's not just the lowest at this point at any point in either of his presidencies, but he is at the lowest. He has the worst net approval rating at this point in any term for any president. Look at this. He's at minus 32 points now. Joe Biden, of course, Donald Trump loved to rip Joe Biden in the economy. Joe Biden, though, was at minus 25 points, 7 points better. How about George W. Bush? Minus 25 points. Again, 7 points better than Donald Trump. And, of course, Donald Trump loves to rip on James Earl Carter. But James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter, was at minus 22 points, 10 points better than Donald Trump is right now. So again, Donald Trump making the type of history that no president likes to make.
I mean, this is historic. No president has been this low at this point in the presidency on the economy, period, full stop?
Full stop. Full stop. Presidency or term.
Okay.
His approval ratings are in the toilet. He is historically unpopular. And yet, we're told we aren't allowed to believe that maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump wanted something to boost his standing? That he wanted a convenient excuse to build his ballroom, a reason to deploy troops, or a justification to tell you that you aren't allowed to criticize the president online. We're supposed to just ignore the possibility. Think about it. Donald Trump literally started a war to distract us from the Epstein files. You really think he wouldn't do something just as insane to boost his poll numbers? The very fact that we even have to ask these questions tells you exactly where we stand as a country. I'm going to keep calling it out because I promise you, the mainstream media certainly won't. They are too busy playing their part. If you want to support real, independent media that isn't afraid to speak the truth, then hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like on this video to help us beat the algorithm. And if you're a real one who stuck around until the very end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Do not let them silence you. Go ahead and call the president exactly what he is on Twitter, a pedophile, because he is. I am Liam Prescott. Until next time, I'll see you.